You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to N2K Cyberwire's Hacking Humans podcast, where each week we look behind the social engineering scams, phishing schemes, and criminal exploits that are making headlines and taking a heavy toll on organizations around the world. I'm Dave Bittner, and joining me is Joe Kerrigan from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
We got some good stories to share this week, and we are joined once again by our N2K colleague and host of the T-Minus Space Daily podcast, Maria Vermazis. Maria.
Hi, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
All right, and we will be right back after this message from our show sponsor. But first, a word from our sponsor, KnowBe4. Where would InfoSec professionals be without users making security mistakes? Working less than 60 hours per week, perhaps. Actually having a weekend every so often. We get it. User behavior can be a challenge. But users can also be an InfoSec professional's greatest asset once properly equipped. What do we mean by that? Well, stay with us, and in a few minutes, we'll hear from our sponsors at KnowBe4 on that very question. All right, we've got a lot of good stuff to share this week, but first we have some follow-up. What do we have here, Joe?
We do. Bob sent this note in along with the catch of the day, but I thought this belongs in the feedback section, so that's where I put it.
Okay.
I'll take complaints later, I guess. But Bob says, I share segments of each episode with family members and encourage them to listen on their own for their own safety. The recent Geek Squad phone number scam was particularly worrisome for some of my elderly friends and family members. Love the show, and Maria is a great addition.
Oh, thanks.
And I would agree. I realize that you are the click and clack of the cybersecurity realm.
Yes.
So, and he says, if you get that old reference,
Don't scam like my brother.
Right.
Don't scam like my brother.
That is.
I'm from Massachusetts. I definitely get that reference.
Yeah. That is high praise.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
From anybody. I mean, that, those guys were, I went back and listened to some of their older stuff today because of this email. I was like, wow.
So do you think you're Tommy or Raimi?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know which one I am.
Okay.
I didn't listen to that show enough I knew who they were, even though I wasn't an avid listener.
Okay.
So I couldn't identify which one was which.
Uh-huh.
I knew they were actually brothers.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Oh,
So-
yeah. No,
The Magliozzi brothers. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
still listen to them. The podcast still has old reruns of it, and I love their infectious laughter. It just makes me happy.
Yeah.
I love when you listen to old episodes and the phone line clarity is so great, and you're like, oh yeah, that's what it was like before we all went to cell phones. Yeah. Oh
Right.
yeah, I could actually understand people. It's great.
Right.
That's true.
Ugh.
All right.
Now you're making me hate the current technology, Maria.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, we all just remember like, oh yeah, copper lines are pretty great. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. All right, well, let's jump into our stories here this week. I'm going to kick things off for us. And mine actually comes from a blog post. This is someone named Terrence Eden who wrote up a story about some bank scammers. And I'm going to walk you through this, and I'm really going to borrow from the blog post a lot because Terrence does a really great job of setting the story here. They write, you receive a call on your phone. The polite call center worker on the line asks for you by name and gives the name of your bank. They say they're calling from your bank's fraud department. All right?
Hang up.
Yeah, yeah, right. You think, obvious scam. You tell the caller to do unmentionable things. They sigh. The caller says, I can assure you I'm calling from Chase Bank. I understand you're skeptical. I'll send a push notification through the app so you can see this is a genuine call. And your phone buzzes, and you tap the notification, and up on your screen pops up a message from the Chase app that says, are you on the phone with Chase? We need to check it's you on the phone to us. Let us know it's you and enter your passcode on the next screen. And you can either click yes, it's me, or no, it's not me.
Always click no, it's not me. Well, I just shut you down, didn't I? Well,
What?
Dave
I
just
don't
short-circuited.
understand the question. Is it yes, it's me, no, it's not? Who? Okay. Yeah, all right. The question is weirdly phrased.
It is.
So Chase, but let's back up here. I mean,
Right.
so this is a pop-up that's coming from the legit Chase
App.
and someone
Wow.
who
Okay.
says they're from Chase is saying to you, this is how I'm going to verify that I'm actually from Chase. And without you doing anything, they have triggered the Chase app on your phone to pop up this message that asks you if you're on the phone with Chase to verify that you're in a conversation with someone from Chase.
So let me guess. They're on the phone with Chase and and Chase has said, we're sending a push notification.
Well, we'll get to that, Joe.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. It's odd that it says that you need to enter your passcode, though.
Well, the passcode comes next. That's on a further screen. So
Okay.
it's asking you to enter a passcode on the next screen. Right now, it's just asking if you are on the phone with Chase. So it's a yes or no question. Are you
Okay.
on the phone with Chase or not? If you
Okay.
answer yes, then that's going to trigger a passcode. If you answer no, then presumably, someone from Chase will hang up, or, if this popped up randomly and you weren't on the phone with someone, then you'd say, no, it's not me. And then the folks at Chase would know that someone who's not you was calling in. Does that make sense? Are we clear?
Okay. Yes.
But Joe is on the right track here because this is a genuine pop-up from the genuine app.
Right.
This is on your phone. This is not your Chase app has not been hacked. But Joe's suspicions are correct that what is happening simultaneously is while someone from the scammers has called you, they have also called your bank, pretending to be you. So the scammer's accomplice calls the bank, they pretend to be you. The bank sends you the in-app alert to
Jeez.
say, is this you? To say, are you on the phone with someone from Chase, right? So they're taking advantage of the ambiguity in the messaging on the app. You could very easily think that you are on the phone with someone from Chase. You got a call from someone who claims to be from the Chase fraud department. The app pops up and
Right.
It is
asks
really
you,
weirdly worded. I just got to say, it's very strange.
Right. If this is the actual text from the app, there's a defect in the software,
okay,
and it's a design defect.
okay,
Maybe even a requirements defect. It's really deeply embedded in this software
okay.
because the question here is, are you on the phone with Chase? That's not the right question to ask somebody.
Okay.
The right question to ask somebody is, did you call Chase?
Well, it kind of says that.
It says, are you on the phone with Chase?
And then next it says,
We need to check it's you on the phone to us.
to us.
Right. Kind of call says that.
Right.
This is not lucidly clear.
I think you're right.
Yeah. It needs to be lucidly clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't you not told me this story just now, I wouldn't understand why they were asking me this question. And I wouldn't understand why I would ever say, no, it's not me. Like, who else would it be? Would be sort of my question.
Right.
Yeah, that's just very oddly worded.
Right.
Like, am I on did you call Chase? Yes, I did. Or no, I didn't. Not, yes, it's me. No, it's not me. And I'm
Right.
like, who is it? Yeah. It's weird.
Right. Right. But you can see how someone would get caught by this. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's very
I'm getting
It's-
stuck right now.
Right.
it's very confusing, but also very convincing. Because as we said, this is the genuine Chase app popping up this message asking you if you're on the phone with Chase. So it's kind of functioning as intended, right? It's actually the folks at Chase. See, it's interesting because I'm going to say it's the folks at Chase that are being scammed, but they're not. They're putting their security measures in play to make sure that the person who's calling Chase is actually you. The person who's claiming to be you
Right.
is actually you,
I'm
but it's
gonna-
not you.
I'm going to go ahead and say this this is a defect. I'm going to stick with my stance on this.
Okay.
That this is a defect, that this is a vulnerability in their process and actually in their software. And it's really, I mean, it's not like a software bug, it's a text bug because these are just strings in the software. You can change this really easily. You don't even have to do regression testing on it. You're only changing strings. I mean, maybe your test requirements say that. But anyway, from a software engineering perspective, this is a very easy fix. And in fact, I'm looking at this article now, Dave, and it says, it calls this pop-up a security disaster. And it should say something like, did you call us? If someone has called you claiming to be from us, hang up now. And then, Maria, to your point, it says down here, yes, I'm calling Chase. Someone called me.
There you go. Yeah, that's much more clear.
What it should look like.
Yeah.
That is what it should look like. It should not look like, are you on the phone with Chase?
Because it sounds like I am, as far as I know.
Sounds like I am.
As far as I know. Right.
I lay this right at the feet of Chase. This is terrible.
Yeah. I agree. Honestly, if you didn't know this scam was a thing, how on earth would you know what it's trying to protect you from?
And you know who knows this scam is a thing? Chase. Chase knows this scam is a thing. They know it.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up here for a second, because suppose separate from this scam, so let's pretend like we don't know about this scam.
Okay.
What would we think about this measure from Chase for trying to verify whether or not it's actually you on the phone?
If it weren't for this scam, we might think this was good, right? Hey, look, they're doing a verification across another channel,
right?
That isn't the phone call,
right?
Right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
I never would have thought a scammer would work with another human being. It requires talking to someone in tandem. Who wants to do that?
Right.
That's what they're good at, though.
It's a two-person.
I know, it's high effort. I'm just like, I'm lazy. I can't imagine wanting to do that.
It's a dual bad guy scam.
It's just like they have to, one has to nudge the other with their elbow, go now. It's like, oh, come on.
Right. Right. I agree that the wording of this needs to be improved. And I will also say that the high-level advice that we always give here is you're never going to get an incoming call from these people.
Right.
Right? And if you do, what do? You hang up. You say, I'll call you right back.
Right.
And then you call the number that
you
know is a legit number for the tech support people. But this is, look, if someone falls for this, I can understand why.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's very clever. All right. Well, we will have
to him.
we will have a link to that. We will have a link to that in the show notes. Maria, you're up next. What do you have for us this week?
Well, I have a story from the Register by way of RSA, which none of us are at this current time.
So,
but it's the big.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, go ahead, Dave.
Well, no, I was going to ask you to explain what RSA is.
Oh, goodness. What isn't RSA? No, RSA is one of the big cybersecurity conferences. It happens in San Francisco. It's a lot. I used to have to go every year, but a lot of news is broken at RSA. A lot of companies sort of hang on to their big stories and release it at RSA. And we're seeing a lot of that happening right now. I should probably not be referring this. This is coming out later, right? So never mind. A lot of that happens at RSA. So one of the stories that came out at RSA early on in the conference was that ransomware somehow has found a way to get even worse.
Good.
Oh, boy.
Hooray! Yeah, so great. So at the Google Security Threat Intelligence Panel at RSA, the Mandiant CTO, Charles Carmichael, I guess that's how you pronounce his last name, Carmichael, shared that Mandiant is seeing an uptick in ransomware criminals using a terrible new tactic to try and extort their victims. And they are psychological attacks, is how they're sort of summarizing it. These are extortion phone calls to the company executive, the company that is being ransomwared, made from the phone number of one of the executive's children. So you imagine that you're the executive just going about your day, and you're not going to ignore a phone call that's coming from your child, presumably, if you're a half-decent human being. So basically, either an attacker has spoofed your child's phone number, or they have done the social engineering to do an eSIM swap, or maybe even a physical SIM swap. Either way, at the very least, an attacker knows your kid's phone number, or worse, has somehow compromised their phone, or maybe at the very worst, has physical access to it. So I'm just like, oh my God. So
Right.
I'm imagining you're the executive again and you see your kid's phone number, you answer as you normally would. And instead of hearing, the squeaky voice of your 12-year-old complaining that the Wi-Fi is not working, you hear some deep-throated man demanding some large sums of money. So when I heard this story, my heart dropped. And the Mandiant CTO said a bunch of different quotables, but one quote just really... Okay, I'll read it to you now. It's less about, do I need to protect my customers, but more about, how do I better protect my employees and protect the families of employees? That's a pretty scary shift. Yeah, and I'm not at RSA, but I cannot stop thinking about that quote and the chill that must have come over the entire conference room when he said that, because now your employees' families are in scope. If you're a defender at a company dealing with ransomware, that is a nightmare, frankly.
Yeah.
So...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to say, what else to say about this aside from that's just horrific. Yeah. Thoughts?
Well, I had a conversation about this a couple weeks ago with Chris Pearson, who's been a guest on our show. He runs a company called Black Cloak, and one of their specialties is protecting like high level corporate folks and high net worth folks. So, and before I saw this story, so this was a couple weeks ago, he was sharing to me like this was the latest thing that they were, or one of the latest things that they were tracking, that this was a shift and how, like you say, how horrible it is. And you need to have family code words, things like that, to help verify what's going on and who it is says they are. The thing that strikes me about this is that when you get a call that you think is from your kid and it's someone else and they're immediately going to start telling you some kind of story, just the emotional trap door that hits you with. Like you just have the bottom drop out from underneath of you, and
of course.
any hope of rational thought is just gone.
Yeah, you're terrified. Like, what happened to my kid? If something happened, is my child physically in danger right now?
Right.
I mean, this is frankly evil. It's really, it's evil.
And if it's a SIM swap, then the hang up and call back attack
that won't work.
You'll just get that guy back on the phone.
Yeah.
Right.
If they're spoofing your number, you hang up, you call back, you'll get your kid. But the SIM swap, no, you'll get them again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it just. I don't know why I thought maybe people's families were off limits in this realm, but clearly they're not.
No.
So man, just another thing for people to be aware of, I suppose. But who needs this? I mean, seriously. It's just,
I wonder to what degree the fact that the folks who are doing these crimes are often so far away, right? It's not like The Godfather where.
Right.
If you wrong someone or you come after someone's kids or family, Rocco is going to show up with some brass knuckles and set you straight. Like it doesn't work that way.
You've got to make
distance.
sure. You got to make sure you're at the baptism, though, Dave.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I guess if you are an executive at a company of any size, this is just something to be aware of. But I don't even
put a PIN code on your mobile provider account.
Well, and that's another thing Chris was telling me is that exactly to your point, Maria, that part of this is educating the executives so that if they do get something like this, they have at least some hope of recognizing it is for what it is and maybe acting in a rational way. But I wouldn't.
I have a different thought about this.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I hear from people, and I'm trying to talk to them about cybersecurity, is I'm not a target. Nobody's interested in me. But these people, executives, shouldn't think that way. I am a target. People are interested in me.
Right.
What should I do?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that everybody's targeted. It's just a matter of who's going to target you. And if you're an executive, or a high-ranking government official, you're going to have a lot of attention focused on you, and your security model needs to reflect that because your risk is much higher than the average person.
Yes.
Yeah, the scammer's not calling you. The scammer is probably not going to be able to get your information, right? You probably have some other way of doing that. But the incredibly tactically good person is going to call you. They are going to target you. They're going to do their reconnaissance. They're going to find out who your kids are, where they go to school, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing that was interesting in some of the comments on this, because this was also posted on Slashdot, which is actually where I first heard about it. My blood ran cold when I read it. Do you think this would actually make ransomware attacks less effective? Like if you basically threaten somebody's kids at that point, I imagine some people are just going to double down and say, bleep you. I'm definitely not complying now. I mean, I imagine people may have the opposite reaction, but I'm just curious if they think this is actually going to be effective. Although, again, I wish it wasn't happening at all.
If you have a vengeful streak in you, this would certainly trigger it, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Liam Neeson's going to come right after you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If I have a vengeful streak, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, what the other thing this made me think of is I know for executives at really big companies, they have those sort of courses they take you on about personal security.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine if they don't already know about this in these courses, they need to bake this in terms of also stuff you need to keep in mind about how people might be trying to compromise your family to get to you. So terrible as that is.
Again, Chris Pearson from Black Cloak really opened my eyes to a lot of this stuff that I was simply ignorant of. That, if you get to be a certain level of executive with a large public company, you're not allowed to drive your car anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's too big a risk to the organization. Like you have to have a professional driver.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Their threat model's real different from ours.
Yeah,
right.
It really
Podcasters don't have to worry about that.
It really is a different world. No.
Yeah.
If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, really nothing else in the world changes.
Oh, Joe.
Oh, Joe, that's not true. You know that's not true.
It would take at least a couple weeks for me to get used to only having Maria on the show.
Oh, that's good.
Wow.
All right. Well, on that,
Yeah.
we are going to take a break to hear from our sponsor before we hear Joe's story. We'll be right back after this. We were talking about making users into an asset for security professionals. Simply put, users want to do the right thing. They're often just lacking the knowledge to do so. That's one of the reasons KnowBe4 has released Security Coach, a real-time security coaching tool that takes alerts from your existing security stack and sends immediate coaching to users who've taken risky actions. For example, imagine a user has visited a high-risk website or tried to open a document containing malware. Existing security tools will likely block that action, but the user might not understand why. Security Coach analyzes these alerts and provides users with relevant security tips via email or Slack, coaching them on why the action they just took was risky. Help users learn from their mistakes and strengthen your organization's security culture with Security Coach. Learn more about Security Coach at knowbe4.com/securitycoach. That's knowbe4.com/securitycoach. All right, we are back. And Joe, it is time for your story. What do you have for us here this week?
Well, Dave, we all agree that email is just awful.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
Yes.
one of the biggest problems with email is that by default, and until surprisingly recently, this was incredibly true, there's no way to stop somebody from just impersonating someone else and sending email to you.
Yeah.
And there are technologies out there that prevent that from happening, but they have only been developed within the last 15 years. They've only been released as RFPs. Anyway, the first one is called SPF, not sunscreen stuff, but it's Sender Policy Framework. And this allows the owner of a domain to specify which computers are authorized to send email for the domain. And then there is something called DKIM, which is Domain Keys Identified Mail. This was a joint effort between Yahoo and Cisco years ago when Yahoo was like, we got all this spam coming in. It would be nice to validate this. This uses public keys and private keys to sign a message so that you can verify that it actually came from the person or the mail server that it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of these two technologies, there's a relatively newer one called DMARC, which is Domain Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance. And DMARC makes sure that the domain in the from part of the email address matches the domain in the SPF headers and the DKIM parts before it lets anything through, or before it makes sure that those things match up. It actually doesn't stop things from coming through unless you tell it to. But here's the thing. DMARC allows senders to define the policy that recipients should implement on their end. So
okay, I need you to translate this into. Sorry,
Yeah.
I mean, I caught most of that.
Okay. So let's say I
am who I am supposed to. I'm pretending I'm part of an organization. I'm authorized to send an email on behalf of that organization.
Right. So
Yes.
you are mariamail.com, right?
TM. Yes.
And so right. And one of your users sends an email out to from their account at mariamail.com. The recipient has the option to make sure with SPF to make sure that the IP address that sent the email out is authorized to do so.
Okay.
Using DKIM, they can make sure that it actually came from your domain.
Yep.
And then they can use DMARC to say, well, what does Maria Mail want me to do with this message if it doesn't match up? So if I, from Joe's Evil Mail, send out something impersonating Maria Mail, DMARC can say, you can just let it through and tell me about it, or you can quarantine it, or you can just block it. So
DMARC goes out to the world and says, if you receive a message from Maria Mail, this is how you should handle it?
Yes.
Okay.
And the way this works is it is all of these technologies, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, are what are called text records in the DNS I want to say system, but it's actually the S is for system. So it's not the domain naming system, the domain name system.
Okay.
So it's DNS. Yes.
Interesting that this is not part of Simple Mail Transfer Protocol or SMTP. This is actually patched on security to the mail system that is still the same kind of mail system we've been running with since the 60s, or maybe a little bit later.
Since Pine?
Yeah, since Pine, right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Geez. I remember Pine.
Mm-hmm.
I used Pine.
I did
used
too.
Pine. Okay.
So these are very effective if you configure them properly. But as you can imagine, because these are all just text records in the DNS system, you have to set these up properly. Additionally, because they're DNS text records, anybody can read them. So there is a story from The Record from Jonathan Grieg, who this is the news organization from Recorded Future, about a recent security advisory issued by the FBI, the NSA, and the Department of State about a North Korean group dubbed Kimsuki.
Yeah,
I have a problem with that name, Kimsuki. It sounds more like a Japanese name than it does a Korean name.
Okay.
But the organization's goal is to steal and gain valuable geopolitical insight by compromising policy analysts and other experts. So they go out there and they try to it's not like the Lazarus Group, which is all into crypto. These guys are actually part of the intelligence operation.
Okay.
And they're targeting organizations with improperly configured DMARC policies, right? So now what they're doing is they are effectively masquerading as people from these organizations. So if Maria had her DMARC record configured so that it would just report back to Maria when a fraudulent email comes in, that doesn't really stop the email from coming in. Also, if the DMARC record has some kind of error in there, the receiving system may not process it to fail safe. It may process it, just go ahead and allow it through instead of just blocking. It may not default to that. So there's a ton of different ways this is going, but they're looking at these DMARC records and they're going out there and they're seeing what's happening. Now, even if you're suspicious of an email and you check the reply to section, it would still appear like it came from a legitimate domain because it just slid right through the DMARC system because one of these records was not configured properly.
Is DMARC mandatory?
It is not. Well, it depends, actually. That's an excellent question. If you want to send an email to a Gmail user and your email server sends more than like 5,000 messages a day to Gmail, yes, Gmail makes it mandatory.
Right.
It is not mandatory for the protocol. SMTP will work. If you set up an email server somewhere out there on the interwebs, you will have to manually go out and enforce DMARC and all these other underlying technologies. You have to do this as the recipient. So this has to be configured properly on the sender's end, and it has to be configured properly on the recipient's end.
Oh, goody.
If either one of those things are not
no
done
opportunity
properly,
for failure there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things this group is doing that I think is really interesting is this. They are using content from emails previous in a conversation, and that lends authenticity to these spoofed emails. They have been observed creating fake usernames and using legitimate domains to impersonate individuals. So if I can compromise someone's account, even if DMARC is all configured properly, and I can start creating usernames on that email system, it doesn't matter, right? If I've compromised that account, I can send out emails. The system will sign them with the DKIM. The receiver will look up the DMARC record and say, everything looks right.
Yeah.
Here you go, user. Here's an email.
They've checked all the boxes that say it's legit.
Boxes, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So again, we find fundamental security very important. Anyone who is doing work in the U.S. or South Korea, who's working on North Korean or Asian or China policy, should be aware of this. The advisory warns people to be wary of emails with innocuous communication followed by strange links and and attached documents from different email addresses. So just, be mindful of this kind of stuff. I don't know. There's nothing the average user can do. What has to happen is underlying is your security department has to be enforcing DMARC rules right. They have to have the DMARC set up. The rules for the sender have to be set up right. The enforcement for the receiver has to be set up right.
So forward this episode to your beleaguered security and or IT teams.
Right. Tell them. Make sure our DMARC is all configured as well as we can make it.
There you go.
There's nothing a security team likes more than
Yeah,
a well-intentioned
unsolicited
user
advice. Yeah.
just lumbering into their office and telling them how to do their job.
Hey, you know what you guys need to do?
Hey, I got more work for you all. You're not busy here or anything, are you?
Slam the door open. You guys busy?
Right. Meanwhile, there's like garbage cans on fire, people running around screaming.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Yeah. It is amazing that we've gone this long and email is still
Still
bad
terrible.
as it always has
Yeah.
been.
So janky. It's
it is,
still
yeah.
so janky. It's
That's
amazing.
an excellent word. I mean, that's a slang term, but it is like the patched together Frankenstein's monster of the internet. It refuses to die.
Well, it's because no one's ever had the guts to cut it off.
Right.
You like if someone, let's say you had Google and Microsoft and Apple, right, who got together, the three of them, and they said, all right, this is it. We're done.
Email's dead.
Right. We have a new system. It is, it's encrypted. It's this, that, and the other thing. It's secure.
Everything's signed.
Right. We're going to open source it, but from now on, this is how it works.
Right.
The problem is, as you got all these legacy systems, and people are still going to want to use the old stuff, and it has to be compatible with the old stuff. So it's just not practical to cut it off. But if that had happened 30 years ago, we'd be in a much better place. Seriously.
30 years ago, nobody envisioned this internet, this dumpster fire that is now the internet. 30 years ago. 30 years ago, the internet was wonderful, Dave.
I know. It was full
so
of
beautiful.
Hope and promise.
Yeah.
You have all the world's knowledge at our fingertips.
Yeah, it was so great.
It was.
We could use Gopher to find information.
That's right.
And Finger to find
I was asking
people.
Jeeves so much.
Yeah.
Jeeves?
That's right. All right. Well, we will have a link to that story in the show notes. Joe, it is time to move on to our catch of the day.
Dave, our catch of the day comes from Bob, who also sent us the nice note earlier. And he said, I immediately thought of you guys when I received this message. And it is a message that looks like it comes from the U.S. Department of State. But he moused over the email, and it is going to a Gmail address, which he notes not an authentic State Department email.
No, generally not. It's like a random string of characters and numbers at gmail.com.
Somebody just set up a Gmail address.
Yeah.
Born in 1987, judging by their email.
Right.
Right. Well, it says, warning, notice of Social Security number suspension. Attention, due to fraudulent activities, your Social Security number, SSN, will be suspended within the next 24 hours. We are writing to inform you that your Social Security number is being suspended due to the FTC's discovery of unlawful activities in Texas involving your identity. The Department of Justice has been tasked with prosecuting your case according to the Criminal Code Act 1950 and other criminal offenses in Texas, including the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002. Count 1, drug trafficking, Section D of Act 258. Count 2, Act of 1986, money laundering. Count 3, theft by deception, Texas Supreme Court Code Conduct 1986. A legal complaint has been filed against you as of today. In accordance with our standard operating procedure, law enforcement agencies have uncovered 25 bank accounts opened with your Social Security number to perpetuate a $14 million fraud. In the entire state of New Mexico, these accounts were used for unlawful activities such as money laundering, narcotics trafficking, and Internal Revenue Service fraud. The department attempted to deliver legal documents to your most recent known address, but U.S. Marshals who made a visit discovered the house deserted. If you have received this email, it implies that we have exhausted all other means of contacting you. If you are innocent of the allegations, please contact the OIG at the number shown below. To file an appeal, you can contact the Office of the Inspector General, Social Security Administration. Wow.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah, cool story, bro. Exactly.
Oh.
Couple of things. Number one, the Social Security Administration, by the way, the watermark on the back of this is huge.
Yeah.
It almost makes the letter illegible.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Dave, a professional, makes the reading.
That was hard to read.
It was. Yeah, but you did it in one take again, Dave.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, even when I give him total gibberish, sometimes he will read it in one take.
He's a professional.
Well, you know what? It's just my. You know how a big like a python can disconnect its lower jaw to swallow a pig.
Yeah,
I can do that with my brain.
Ah,
and the words just flow directly from my eyeballs to my mouth without any processing, without any consideration. I give them no thought. Actually, as Click and Clack used to say, unencumbered by the thought process. That's what happens with me when I read these.
You're like the pigeon that finds the cancer cell in the mammogram.
That's right.
Yeah. He's not. He doesn't know what he's looking at. He just knows what a cancer cell looks like when he gets a piece of like birdseed or something.
That's right. That's right. So this is all about it is a lack of thought. That's what it is.
It is impressive. An impressive lack of thought. The Social Security Administration is an independent administration. It is not part of the Department of State. So that would not add up immediately. And I would think it would be like part of the Department of Treasury or something like that.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It's not part. I don't know where it used to be. It did used to be somewhere.
They're invoking the Federal Trade Commission?
Yeah. Federal Trade Commission, which is
Department
also
of Justice?
The Federal Trade Commission is also
New
independent.
Mexico.
Or maybe they're part of they're part of Commerce.
Yeah.
Never mind. So many departments to know. If this came to me, I'd be like, criminal offenses in Texas. I'm like, uh-oh. What did I do last time I was in Texas?
Right.
May not have been legal.
Crossing state lines.
Right, yeah.
But the email is also signed by, that looks like Ken Paxton. So, like, isn't he Texas Attorney General? None of this makes any sense, but, who's looking at the details? I just love how they tell this really long, involved story. And it's like, and yes, this is the first you're hearing of any of it.
Right. My favorite part is the abandoned home.
Right.
Yes.
Like somehow.
Dun, dun, dun.
Wait a minute. Did I abandon a home recently? I can't remember. You know what? I did abandon a home recently. Ugh, one step ahead of the U.S. Marshals.
Yep.
How
As
many homes
usual.
do you have, Dave, that you
All
can
of them.
abandon? All of
them.
homes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you got to stay one step ahead of the law, and you
That's
never
right.
know when you're going to need to lay low for a while. So.
Oh, that pied a terre? I forgot about that one.
You got to
Yeah.
move around. That's the only way
Yeah.
to beat the system.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and when you have multiple families like I do who don't know about each other in multiple states, why do you think I have to host all these podcasts?
That's right. So many mouths to feed.
Yeah, that's right. That's
And
right.
nothing makes the money roll in like a podcast.
No. It is. Ooh, man, it is.
Joe, a little too close.
Yeah,
Listen.
says
all
Joe,
right?
who works for someone else.
Right.
All right, we're going to get ourselves out of here in one piece. Too late.
Yes.
But Bob, thank you so much for sending this in. We do appreciate it. And of course, we would love to hear from you. If there's something you'd like us to consider for our catch of the day, you can email us. It's hackinghumans@n2k.com. We want to thank all of you for listening, and of course, we want to thank our sponsors at KnowBe4. They are experts in helping users do the right thing through new school security awareness training. That is Hacking Humans, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. Our thanks to the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute for their participation. You can learn more at isi.jhu.edu. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like the show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to hackinghumans@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode is produced by Liz Stokes. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. We're mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester. Our executive editor is Brandon Karpf. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. I'm Dave Bittner.
I'm Joe Kerrigan.
And I'm Maria Varmazis.
Thanks for listening. Hey, listeners. We're always looking for ways to improve the N2K Cyberwire network and maintain the intelligence-driven news experience that keeps you in the know on the latest developments in cybersecurity. We've launched our 2024 audience survey and would love for you to take a few minutes to share your feedback. And hey, there's even a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card if you complete the survey. Visit cyberwire.com/survey. That's cyberwire.com/survey and share your feedback now.